By definition, a documentary is a form of non-fictional motion picture intended to document some form of reality, primarily for the purpose of instruction, education, or maintaining a historical record. Although documentaries take a lot of different themes or forms, they all share similar codes and conventions. The majority of documentaries have a voiceover to narrate and add context to the piece. There are two different types of voiceovers: the voice of authority, where the person is seen and heard, and a voice of God, where the voice is heard but not seen. The voiceover intends to convince the audience that they are an expert in the field and therefore have specialist knowledge and must be right. People are more likely to pay attention if the voiceover is present, as the audience are being addressed directly, therefore they feel more involved. Often images are edited at certain points to coincide with certain parts of the voiceover, thus authenticating and illustrating what has been said. Documentaries often include real footage in order to convince us that the points the narrator are making are true, and it helps to back this up and give evidence. All the events that are presented are perceived as being real to the audience, as the directors and producers go to great lengths to make sure we are convinced so. Most of this real footage is actually heavily edited and paired with a voiceover in certain sections in order to affect the reality, allowing it to correspond with what the filmmaker wants to impose on the audience. The desire to promote realism is assisted through more natural lighting and sound being used. For example, the majority of sound will be diegetic, and the assistance of artificial lighting will be minimal. In addition to real footage, archive footage and stills will be used in order to make the argument addressed in the documentary seem a lot more realistic. Including clips and images that the filmmaker isn't able to make themselves also adds context to the piece. Interviews with experts also authenticate the views expressed throughout the documentary. Sometimes, however, the views of the expert can disagree to the opinion projected by the documentary, and therefore the filmmaker proceeds to disprove these contradicting statements. The use of text edited in after filming is a cheap way of delivering information. It's also very quick and effective and grabs the audience's attention immediately. Labels and dates appearing on the screen are easily believed by the audience and give a greater impact to the real or archive footage that's used, and also authenticate the expert interviews. Sound is also key within documentaries, as it denotes the mood and tone of a particular scene, frame, or section. Non-diegetic music is added afterwards to enhance the mood and evoke emotion within the audience, causing them to feel the certain way that the filmmaker wants them to. This music can also form a bridge between two separate scenes. Despite them seeming completely unrelated, the sound bridge helps to make them relate to one another. This makes them link and gives them some form of context. An alternative to real footage is to set up reconstructions. Typical scenarios are filmed in a set-up scene, and although they are not technically real, they are a quick and easy way to get footage and are easily believed by the audience. Scenes like this are made more recognisable by familiar props and activities in the mise-en-scène. Visual coding like this makes a situation seem more real, believable and personal to the audience, therefore getting them more involved and engaged within the documentary.